10 girls believe that they're not good enough or they don't measure up in ways like their looks, performance in school, relationships with their family and friends, you name it. Joining us now is America's Joy Magnet, two-time TEDx speaker, and the author of Love Yourself Happy, Sherry Elise. Sherry, welcome to Bloom.
Thank you so much for having me here, Gail. I'm really grateful.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you because I have 4 daughters, 2 of whom are teenagers. And what signs as parents should we be on the lookout for that our teens might be struggling with low self-esteem?
Well, it definitely looks a lot like depression. So it's a lot of the same symptoms, which are things like isolating themselves, no social activity with other people. It's a lot like negative self-talk. You hear them often saying, I'm so dumb, or I can't do anything right, I'm not talented enough. Just really lack of excitement about anything. And there's always a lot of constant apology. So it really is just looking for those signs where we know what low self-esteem looks and feels like, and it's that physical embodiment of that.
And here's the million-dollar question, what can we do as parents to help our kids achieve more self-esteem without it seeming like we're lecturing them or maybe even, blowing hot air? Because one of my daughters in particular, I'm like, you're so beautiful, you're so smart. And I try to reinforce, but sometimes it just doesn't sink in.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially like when we used to hear from our parents, we would say things like, well, you're biased. The most important thing to do with our teens, and this is the hardest part for parents, is to listen, is to not dole out advice. And that's challenging because we want to solve everything for our kids. We want to make it okay for them. But that sounds a lot like to them like lecturing. So the most important thing is to not really give advice, to ask questions. Let them figure that out for their own, and you're just there to guide them. Because the more that we're open books and the more that we are approachable, they'll want to come to you for their challenges.
That's great advice, and it's definitely advice that I need as a parent, because instead, to your point, I was trying to be the cheerleader and, solve all the problems, but clearly hearing them is more important. So asking questions, that's a great way to kind of start the conversation and learn more about what your child is going through. But what else can we do?
Well, the most important thing I would say, because we all feel it, which is releasing the pressure off of them. So I always say, like, whether we're 16 or we're 66, we are all just trying to figure life out. We're all fumbling. We're all making mistakes. And we know that as adults, but our kids, there's so much pressure from the schools, from their teachers, from the schools that they have to get into, from social media, from media. So the best thing that you can do as a parent is to share your own personal journey to self-discovery. Make it normal for them what they're going through, because so often they feel alone and they're the only ones that are going through this. So if you can relate to them and let them know how you figured it out, that's a lot more powerful.
That is great advice. Your TEDx talk to me about that. We're looking at some cool video. What's the message that you're out there conveying to folks?
It's really about connection to ourselves. We, in the world of busy and life, we do everything else except sit with ourselves and really practice self-awareness. And so this message in my TEDx is all about how self-connection leads us to more joy in our lives, allowing ourselves to feel, allowing ourselves to slow down and stop everything and be with ourselves.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because I know we're specifically talking about teens today, but as parents, if we can start to show that as an example, it's going to definitely help our kids.
Absolutely, Gail. I mean, we want to dole out again advice and tell our kids what are the best ways to do things. And half the time, we're not really practicing it ourselves. So being able to sit with ourselves, practice self-compassion with ourselves. And, another thing is making room for failure for your kids, making that okay, because it allows them to try and to risk things. And so often, teen self-esteem is tied to outcomes. So perhaps asking them questions about the process of doing something as opposed to, did they win or did they fail? That's so important.
Anything else? We have about a minute left. Any other advice for parents out there watching? Because I know this is a really hot subject that, no matter how hard you try, sometimes, especially with girls, it's really hard to get them to gain that self-esteem.
Yeah, absolutely. So I couldn't be me without telling, parents to tell their kids to encourage them to find the joy in what they're doing. I know as an adult, when we put all this pressure around ourselves to do something well, we actually lose the fun in it. So encourage your kids to do things that they enjoy without having to be good at it. I love singing. I'm a terrible singer, but I do it because it's fun. And so it's really important to get our kids, with all the pressure that's on them of perfectionism, to just enjoy their days.
That's great advice, Sherry. And you and I do have that in common. I'm not the best singer either, but I love to do it. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today. It was awesome connecting with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And I'll connect you with Sherry on our website, wfla.com/Bloom. We'll be back with more Bloom right after this, so don't go away.